This video ranks all of the legendary brawlers from worst to best. Now you may not have all of the legendary brawlers, but I still highly recommend you watch to the end of the video so you know which legendary brawlers to unlock and max out next. Alright guys, the first legendary brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Meg. Now Meg has fallen off and become one of the worst legendaries inside of Brawl Stars. Meg is an agile poker without her mech because of her fast movement speed and fast unload speed, but with it, she becomes a devastating fighter and control asset as she can deal high damage in large areas with her attack and secondary super. There's a slight delay before Meg hops into her mech, and her super can be cancelled if she dies, gets knocked back, or gets stunned. Make sure to activate her super where you'll be safe from attacking enemies. Now the good thing about Meg is that she can still be used to counter tanks in specific situations. You can use her high DPS from the mech to deal heavy amounts of damage to tanks, and then use your swiping super to deal even more damage to lower the enemies down quicker. As long as you can get within range of the enemies and connect with your shots, you are gonna cook. Now it's important that whenever you're in the mech, you're trying to deal as much damage as possible, or you're trying to get your mech back if it gets destroyed. It doesn't take long for Meg to chain her super back, and even if you die trying to get it back, you'll respawn with the mech anyways, so it's kind of a win-win with her. Now I also recommend avoiding Meg's puny form as much as possible because she is essentially useless without her mech. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Chester. Now something that Chester struggles with is his inconsistent main attacks. If you forget how many bells Chester's next attack will fire, look at the attack spread. The 1 bell stage has a rectangular hitbox similar to most single projectile attacks, while the other stages have cone-shaped hitboxes with varying sizes of spread. He is also a very good last pick in ranked if you're unsure of how to combat the synergy of the enemy team. However, don't pick him against multiple sharpshooters on an open map as he has poor damage at far range. Now before going up into a close range combat fight, make sure you have your 3 bells attack queued up next. This will make it so that your 4 bells attack is next, which should be enough damage to defeat almost all of the brawlers in the entire game. And especially now with the single Bellomania star power, it is going to be your 3rd attack, and even more so you can easily destroy the enemy. Now kind of like what I was talking about earlier with Chester's main attacks kind of spreading out, you want to make sure you're attacking the enemies at a point blank range. This is something that's critical in playing Chester because you need to hit as many bells as you can. However, he doesn't have a lot of health, so if he gets too close to the enemies, he could possibly get bursted down before he can burst down the enemy. Alright guys, the next legendary we're going to be talking about is going to be Spike. Now Spike is extremely overrated. Spike is a brawler that's worshipped by beginner, lower skilled, and amateur players because Spike is very easy to play. He can deal a lot of damage, has a good super for area control, and a star power that requires no skill. However, at higher ranks, Spike is easy to counter and isn't as effective as people think. Now something that is definitely holding Spike back in the current meta is his low health. Spike is low health and a slow reload speed. Because of this, it's best to practice shooting around obstacles, predicting a shot pattern, and predicting the enemy's movement patterns to prevent opportunities for the enemies to damage you. However, his high damage output compensates for his low health and allows him to defeat enemies easily. Now another reason why Spike isn't really that effective, especially in higher ranks amongst the pros, is because they don't really have any problems dodging curveball. The 6 spikes that fly out from his attack always spread out in the same pattern, no matter your position or rotation. You can use this to know where the spikes will land, making it easier to hit enemies around corners and obstacles or to check bushes. Because of this, having the cactus explode near a target is vital because this increases the chances of multiple spikes hitting the same target. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Crow. Now Crow is a very mid-legendary and brawler in general just because he's been nerfed into the ground. He has been receiving nerfs to his extra toxic star power and his slowing toxin gadget for a long time now. At this point, it doesn't matter which star power gadget you use because both star powers and both gadgets are equally as strong. Now besides Crow's gadgets and star powers, his stats overall are just very weak. Crow doesn't have a lot of health, so he'll get bursted down pretty easily by strong meta brawlers. Crow also doesn't deal a lot of damage, so he'll get out DPS and not be able to burst down high health brawlers in time before they reach Crow. Now Crow can still be a good brawler to play on bushy maps to scout bushes, but other than that, he's going to be pretty useless. To use Crow is to take advantage of his range by poking at the enemy, attack from a distance, and back off to chip away at an enemy's health and charge his super. While poking, use Crow's fast movement speed to dodge enemy fire. Although poking deals moderate damage each time, especially because other brawlers are more effective in long range combat than Crow, poking will slowly defeat the enemy and hinder any healing. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Draco. Now Draco is another brawler that's very overrated. Players in higher ranks can easily counter Draco by staying outside of his attack range, making it harder for Draco to charge up his super. Because of Draco's unique main attack mechanic, it's recommended to use him to check for enemies in bushes first, dealing high damage at his range's apex before slowly hounding them down and charging up his super. Now probably one of the best things about Draco's kit is definitely going to be his last stand gadget. Draco activates a shield for 2 seconds that causes him to take regular damage but prevents him from falling under 1 health. This basically gives Draco full immunity and 2 extra seconds for Draco to defeat the enemy while he is using his super. Now don't get me wrong, Draco can still be pretty good in very niche scenarios. Draco is a menace in game modes that require lane control, especially Hot Zone and Brawl Ball. In Hot Zone, Draco's high hit points and gadget allows him to withstand a considerable amount of damage, and with his super, he is able to either force enemies out of the zone or prevent them from moving in a specific lane. In Brawl Ball, Draco is able to pressure the enemies with his super and deal a substantial amount of damage at mid to close range. However, mind that Draco struggles against long range brawlers unless he is in close range. That means he is not usually a top pick in an opened up map. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Leon. Now Leon is a mid legendary, but it's all because of his super. Leon's super can be used both offensively and defensively. If you're in a bad position, you can use your super to sneak away from the enemy or even defeat one of them. If you're carrying a lot of gems in gem grab or have a high bounty in bounty, use your invisibility to escape, making it hard for the opposition to attack you. When using it to escape, his invisible star power can give him a higher chance of surviving tough situations. Now let's be honest here, without Leon's super he would be absolutely nothing. Now I really recommend not wasting Leon's super as it is very important to him since he can easily achieve kills with it. For example, if you're on low health and there is a high burst damage brawler near you, don't use his super even if you have his invisible star power, as that brawler will defeat you anyway. Now another reason why Leon is pretty bad in general is because of the damage that it does at max range. If you're stuck at long range, you can use the strafing technique to chip out a moderate amount of the enemy's health. Similar to Bo, Leon's projectiles are fired from left to right, so you can concentrate or spread out by strafing left or right while attacking. You can walk left while shooting to narrow his attack width and increase his damage. Conversely, you can walk right while attacking to get a wide attack with minor damage for chipping away at clumped up groups of enemies. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Sandy. Now the main reason why Sandy is still a decent brawler in the game is because of his hypercharged swift wins. When activated, Sandy's next super prevents affected enemies from using any attacks, supers, gadgets, or hypercharges for half a second. This sandstorm will also increase the movement speed of Sandy and his teammates when they are in its range by 20%. Now let's be honest here, something that's still going to make Sandy a pretty annoying brawler is going to be his Rude Sand star power. Using this star power to scout bushes and prevent the enemies from healing up is another reason you need to be playing Sandy on maps with bushes. Sandy will thrive running around in bushes, but he also has a kit to counter bush camping brawlers. Now something to keep in mind is that Sandy's main attacks can actually shoot out faster on the left hand side compared to the right side. So when you are trying to attack the enemies, you need to aim a little right of where they actually are standing so that the left side of your Pebble Blast hits the enemy quicker. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Cordelius. Now the whole reason why Cordelius is decent as well is because of his hypercharged Complete Darkness. When activated, Cordelius' super slows enemies down in the Shadow Realm. This will help you close down the distance between you and the enemies even more to help you get that confirmed kill. Now the fact that the enemies won't be able to use their gadgets or supers or anything in the Shadow Realm, that should make it even easier for you to take down your target. Don't be scared to rush down your opponent, especially if you out DPS or outrange them. You need to take advantage of the fact that enemies can't use anything except for their main attacks to get you down. Now if you are running the Poison Mushroom gadget, I recommend activating the gadget first and then using your super onto the enemy. This way you can use that gadget in the Shadow Realm to help you take down the enemy. Usually you wouldn't be able to use your gadget in the Shadow Realm, but if you activate Poison Mushroom before going into the Shadow Realm, then you'll be able to use it onto your opponent. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Kit. Now Kit is now considered to be one of the better legendaries in the game because of his 1v1 capabilities. Kit is probably one of the best brawlers to play in a 1v1 situation, such as in duels or even solo showdown. He can use his super to stun the enemy and then burst him down with his main attacks. Of course, his cardboard box gadget helps in those engagements as well. But the true reason why Kit is going to be pretty good in the meta in general is because he pairs very well with tanks and assassins. I mean, ever since Kit has been released, it gives players an incentive to pair him up with tanks since that's his strong suit. So now with Kit having a higher pick rate and win rate, so will tanks and tank counters within the current meta. Now the only downside with Kit is you need good teammates to support so that you guys can hopefully win the game. If Kit is playing against tanks and has no tanks on his team, then he is going to really struggle. He needs brawlers with high health to latch onto, because if he jumps onto to high health brawlers, Kit will probably get bursted down first. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Surge. Now Surge is a great brawler to play on maps with lots of walls. Surge can use his super to leap over walls and surprise enemies that could be trying to heal up and hide from him. This can be very effective, especially against brawlers like throwers who have no shot surviving Surge from a close range. What's very good about Surge in the current meta is he's a great tank counter. Once he reaches stage 3, Surge's super shouldn't be used immediately after charging it. It will not upgrade him any further, so it's better to save it until he needs it. It can be used later when he needs to dodge attacks or to escape from a brawler that gets too close to him. Now even though Surge isn't in the S tier anymore, something that still helps him is going to be his hypercharge level 5. When activated, Surge upgrades to a 4th stage, giving his shots even more range than stage 3 and causing them to split every time. This hypercharge goes nuts because it's basically Surge like how he was upon his official release. He can just shoot in the general area of where the enemies are and easily hit the enemies for huge damage. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Kenji. Now Kenji has fallen out of the S tier because of all the nerfs he received. Kenji's Nagini Nemesis star power got nerfed from 90% damage reduction to 60% and his supercharge rate from his super was decreased by 60%. I mean, this hurt Kenji so much because it's a lot easier to take him down now and it makes it harder for Kenji to cycle up his supers. However, Kenji can still be pretty decent because he can still deal a lot of damage once he gets within range. Kenji's damage from his main attacks and super wasn't changed at all, so that'll still keep Kenji somewhat decent because he can still be a great counter to throwers or glass cannon brawlers in general. It's just going to be a lot easier to counter Kenji than before, and especially since he's been out for a long time now. Now even though Kenji's super was nerfed a while ago, you still need to try and hit multiple enemies with it if you can. Even though the most ideal situation is to hit targets at the origin of your super, being able to hit enemies that are caught anywhere in the X is a W in my book. Dealing a couple thousand damage is nothing to joke about, but dealing that max damage is obviously what you need to be aiming for. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Amber. Now it is very important that you're being conservative with your ammo when playing Amber. If Amber is out of ammo, she needs to wait a while to fully reload despite what seems to be an incredibly fast reload speed. With her Scorching Siphon star power, you can partially mitigate this issue by using her super or Firestarter's gadget to reload quicker. You can also place her Firestarter's gadget at your spawn point and reload quicker if you die. If you do this, you will enter battle with a full bar of ammo. Another thing that makes Amber really shine is her ability to maintain control of an area and her ability to shred down tanks. Amber is an excellent counter to high health brawlers because of her continuous attack that deals enough damage to eliminate them. She can also use her super to prevent them from healing and finishing them off. However, maintain your distance from these brawlers because Amber, with her moderate health, can be 2-shotted or 3-shotted by those brawlers if they get close enough. She's going to be pretty helpless at close range due to her inability to deal immediate damage and her lack of stuns, slows, or knockbacks to distance yourself from such brawlers. Well, anyway guys, if you guys enjoyed that video, I highly recommend you guys go check out this video right here.